meeting, and I'm not really sure precisely what was said. There have been stories about deals with regard to gas, but one thing is very clear, and that is that Russia does see Iran as a potential competitor in the gas market. And as I indicated earlier, the Iranian-American hostility has been a godsend for Russian petroleum interests. And I think that we've seen the formation, kind of a little bit of a greater institutionalization of the gas exporting countries forum, with a Russian as the head of it. And there have been other reports about Putin and Ahmadinejad making a deal. Russia gets the European gas market, and Iran gets India and southern China, and Russia gets northern China. But we haven't seen any of these things actually pan out. Obviously, Iran's potential is far more potential at this point. It hasn't actually come about. But we have seen now Turkmenistan. There's a pipeline now, 2 pipelines from Turkmenistan into Iran. Turkmenistan has options besides Russia. So, Iran is becoming a little bit more of a rival, it seems to me, in the gas sphere. Now, with regard to the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, this is the organization that groups together Russia, China, and 4 of the Central Asian republics: Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, and Tajikistan. What's it for? What's its use? There have been others who've now been admitted as observers: Pakistan, Iran, India, Mongolia. And Pakistan and Iran in particular have asked to become full members. But so far, they have not. And certainly in the Iranian press, they're sort of getting fed up. What's wrong with us? Why can't we join your club? We want to join your club. Why won't you let us into your club? It appears that there is some reluctance on Russia and China's part to, in fact, back up Iran in any dispute with the West. And so, Iran would like to do that. And, I'm reminded during the Cold War, people would often say, well, if America doesn't do this for us, we'll just go to the Soviets. And often the reaction of our diplomats was, you try it, see what you get. And I think that's basically what's happening now is that given how much Iran distrusts Russia, I don't see them sort of following through on that.
Great. I just want to make one comment. For those of you in the overflow rooms, there should be question cards on your seats or near your seats. If they're not, let us know, and an intern will take your questions. The gentleman in the striped shirt, please.
Thank you very much, Professor Katz, for your very interesting presentation. I am with the Interfax Russian News Agency. Pyotr Cheremушkin is my name. My question, everything you said is very interesting, but I would rather ask about some other little detail. Did you follow the story with Arctic Sea ship that was stopped? Do you believe in the reports that what was happening there was an attempt to transfer S-300 from Russia to Iran?
The Russian government
it was intercepted.
The Russian government has denied this, and I believe the Russian government in this instance. I think that if the Russian government wants to transfer S-300s to Iran, they'll do so in a far more efficient manner than I think that with this bizarre episode of the ship. I think that they can do it by other means, and especially since if S-300s show up in Iran, everyone's going to know that Russia provided them. So why bother to hide the actual transfer? So I don't think that's. I'm not sure what that episode was about, but I don't think it was about S-300s.
Nina Aswick with the Army Directed Studies Office. You said you read an excerpt from from the Russian media about how a a nuclear Iran would be better for Russia than a pro-U.S. Iran. Do you believe that Moscow truly feels that way? And if so, is it because they feel that they can control a nuclear Iran in some fashion, or and what role would Israel play in that as well?
Good questions. I think that when the Russians look at the United States, American foreign policy, they really see it being is irrational in many respects. I think that from the Russian point of view is that why is the U.S. so worried about Iran acquiring nuclear weapons when Pakistan has them, and we basically accepted that? And surely Pakistan is far more of a danger. Russia regards it as more of a danger, but here's a state where, it's a question of will the regime actually remain in power? In other words, we could see jihadists actually getting hold of these nuclear weapons, and the U.S. doesn't seem to be terribly exercised about it, at least not publicly. Whereas, Iran, the Ayatollahs, they seem to want to stay in power, and therefore, why would the logic of nuclear deterrence not work with them? So they don't see our concern about Iran as being completely honest. And if they see, in other words, the way the Russians view it is that if there's such a contradiction in our reaction, there must be something else at stake, basically. And I have a feeling, I personally don't want Iran to acquire nuclear weapons, but I can't imagine that if it does, we're not going to react as we have in every other case, and that is that we all basically accept it, and deterrence comes into play, et cetera, et cetera. In other words, the Iranians are not that different from the rest of us, and so I think that the Russians just see us as too upset about Iran, and many Russians, including Putin himself, have said that they do not think America's concern about Iran is truly security related, that our concern is mainly commercial. We don't want Russia helping with the nuclear reactor because we want America to take over the nuclear reactor and to sell more. That's what they believe. Because they just don't see even a nuclear Iran as behaving differently from other nuclear powers. Now, you mentioned Israel, and I was actually in Israel in April of 2008. I was one of 3 Americans who participated in a Russian-Israeli conference, and it was just an extraordinarily interesting thing. Russian-Israeli relations have grown very close under Putin in particular. And they have their differences, over Iran and Syria in particular, but, Russia and Israel are governments that don't expect to agree with everybody on everything. So if they can even agree on a few things, that's fine. And I think that, I actually think that, whatever one thinks of Russian foreign policy elsewhere, in the Middle East, I actually think that Russia is essentially trying to kind of keep its head down, not attract attention to itself. In other words, if there's going to be hostility, let there be hostility between others, not with us, and that they have a lot to lose, and so maintain good relations